and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Back at it with another video. And I'm sure many of you guys woke up this morning totally stoked to realize that you are starting your Saturn's return. So welcome to the Grown Up Club. This is a video dedicated to all of you guys who are going to be experiencing your first or even your second Saturn return in Pisces. Do me a favor, if you are not already subscribed, click the button below. Make sure you hit subscribe so you are alerted as to when I have new videos coming out on the channel. It is Saturn in Pisces week. I'm going to be talking about this a couple different ways. I'm going to keep telling you guys there's already some content out there. I did talk about what Saturn in Pisces might feel like throughout the next couple of years collectively. Equally, I touch on it quite a bit in my 2023 several hour overview, so you guys can get more information on that there. We're probably still going to do one more video. But this is going to be probably a longer several part presentation. I want to talk to you guys about how to navigate your Saturn's return. For those of you guys who are going through it the very first time, if you were born in the 90s, specifically between 1993 and 1996, but equally, if you're a part of the 1964 to 1967 club, you're experiencing your second Saturn return. Now, this video is not limited purely to people who are having a Saturn return, so don't click it off, because it's actually going to be helpful in getting some insight as to how to navigate this throughout the next 2.5 years for all of the 12 signs. I'm going to be giving you guys some examples of how this energy works, what you might be feeling, why the Saturn return period is so important, how to work with it, and I'm going to tell you guys what I'm doing on my off time to prepare. I've been doing this the last few months to get ready for this transit, show you all kinds of crystal recommendations and natural recommendations for this transit. And part of it is I don't want to be an astrologer who's got only like one dimension. I've always kind of gone at my practice from the angle of being able to educate, being able to also give readings, but also talk to people about how to be prepared and what to utilize in terms of like health and ritual and magic stuff to navigate some of these more difficult transits. So pull up a seat, grab a snack. We're going to go ahead and get into it. So let's start a little bit about talking about the timelines. Okay, so Saturn specifically stays in a sign for about 2.5 years, give or take. It's going to have retrograde periods. As of today, March 7th, Pisces, right? Pisces, party in the sky. Happy full moon to those of you guys also. Part of the reason why I wanted to really focus on health and wellness because of this Virgo full moon, but also just for me personally, this transit is going into my 6th house. So it is definitely all about health, wellness, organization. I'm a Libra rising. And for those of you guys who are not familiar with me, I talk about my chart here and there. I have Saturn conjunct Neptune in my natal chart natally, okay, at 10 degrees of Capricorn. So I feel like it's a very similar energy to having Saturn in Pisces, because Saturn is linked into Neptune, which is the ruling planet for Pisces, sub-ruled also by Jupiter. And so I feel like this is like an interesting time, okay? So for those of you guys who don't know also, that placement talks very specifically about understanding the foundation of the routine, the practicality. Saturn and Neptune deals with the spiritual, the otherworldly, psychic, and meditation, all of that stuff. So we're going to talk a lot about that stuff. I'm giving you all of the goodies that I have learned throughout my Saturn transit. I had my Saturn transit back in 2019, but it was a hot mess, y'all. I have Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Venus. Venus is my chart lord, all within a few degrees of each other. So I got sideswiped during my Saturn return. It has been extended because I have a North Node in Aquarius. So I feel like I have had a 6 or 7 year Saturn return, and I'm glad to be feeling like I'm coming out of the fire. And not many people know that the Saturn return actually doesn't really wrap up. I guess I should say the Saturn return wraps up right around the time you're 31, right? So when Saturn either leaves the house that it's located in, or it gets within 10 degrees out of a 10-degree orb of conjunction. So let's say your Saturn is at 10 degrees. Once it hits 21, you're kind of in the clear. But Saturn does not mature till you're 36 years of age. As I film this video right now, I'm 33. I'm in my Christ year. and I feel like I'm just starting to kind of like understand what happened. 27, progress lunar return, right? You prepare for whatever you're going to be going through during your Saturn return. 28 to 31, that's the Saturn return period. When you are done with it and Saturn either goes to another house or another sign, then you hit about 32 to 34. That's when you start kind of reviewing what the heck happened, like how did I get here, what was the purpose of all of that, and you start integrating that more. And then 35 and 36, Saturn starts maturing and you have your kind of like your glow up, and you've learned what you needed to learn from Saturn. So very many times I have clients that actually come to me between about 27 to 30, right when they're in preparation for their Saturn return, or right when they are even wrapping it up sometimes. And they'll always say to me like, oh, you know, it's been so terrible, or it's just, I'm really scared. I'm afraid of what's going to happen. And I just want to squash all of that right now. Okay. Your Saturn return is one of the most pivotal turning points in your astrological transits in helping usher you into becoming an adult. So even in spite of some of the difficult transiting things that happen and the upheaval, whatever, it ultimately ends up being something that's really necessary to kind of clear old karmic debt and prepare you for your dharma and moving further into your future. So I'm not going to hold space for that kind of doom and gloom, fear-based astrology. I'm going to level with you guys. My Saturn return was an absolute shit show. It was not great at the time, but I kept reminding myself of what was going to be on the other side of that, and that when I got through that period, I knew that it was just going to be like a total Saturn glow up. Now, I happen to have Saturn in a Saturn-based sign, so maybe it was a little bit easier for me to navigate, but nevertheless, be optimistic and be willing to kind of roll up your sleeves and do the heavy lifting for this transit. Big things happen during your Saturn return, okay? So Saturn, the actual Saturn return in itself is Saturn transiting through all of the signs, coming back to where it was by degree and minute, based off of the sign in the house when you were born. So Saturn is returning. It's coming home to this energy that it is kind of, you know, that you were born with. So it's kind of like playing with home field advantage. The challenge is that there is a lot of like reviewing what has happened thus far in your life and trying to figure out, okay, what works, what doesn't work, how do I build a stronger foundation going into the future? Because the truth is, guys, a lot of you guys are going to be kind of laying the groundwork for what's going to be the better part of the next 14 to 29 years of your life. And I see clients that are in their late 50s going into their 60s, getting ready to experience their second Saturn return. And I will be the first one to tell you, if you do not do your work during your first Saturn return, it will come back and bite you in the ass. So be mindful of that. Be willing to do the work. So specifically, I'm talking to those of you guys who have Saturn that's going to be between, let's say, 28 degrees of Aquarius and 10 degrees of Pisces. So the last 2 degrees of Aquarius, even though Saturn's going into Pisces, you're still going to be experiencing an orb of 2 degrees in conjunction. Meaning, even though Saturn will retrograde back to 0 degrees of Pisces, it's within 2 degrees. So you're going to feel it. Equally, if you're like, I've got, Saturn at 10 degrees, 11 degrees, you're still going to feel it. Even though the conjunction itself won't happen yet or again, you're going to be in the heat of it. And then we've got this that's going to continue. You're going to see, next year Saturn's going to move up in degrees. So it's really kind of affecting those of you guys who are born more so in 1993 this year, but 1994 is going to feel it as well. And really it's the Saturn in Pisces years, specifically for those of you guys born in the 90s, because this is the first time it's been back in almost 30 years. If you're born between May 21st, 1993 and June 30th, 1993, you're feeling it. And then we've got the second batch of dates. This is January 28th of 1994 to April 7th of 1996. So basically the first 10 degrees are going to be feeling this the most. But still, it helps to be prepared. It helps to know what the themes of Saturn are, what the themes of Saturn and Pisces is, where this is transiting, and what aspects it's making in your chart. I'm going to give you guys as much information as I can, but nothing is really going to beat sitting down and talking to an astrologer. I feel like it's probably one of the most important times to talk to an astrologer and make that time and that investment. So that way you have like a strategy plan. So if you're just starting your Saturn return, it's not too late. If you've got it coming in the next 2 years, I would say take notes, prepare, and do consider getting a reading. Now, if you guys check out my links below, I'm going to give you lots of information, but you can go to my website, and I do offer Saturn return based readings. I feel like that is my bread and butter. It's my favorite type of reading to do because I can give you lots of like tips and tricks and all kinds of things that you can do to better navigate and be prepared, especially for the high times when you are going to be feeling Saturn's energy. Now, some of you, actually most of you, if you have a Saturn placement between 0 and 7 degrees, you're going to have several conjunctions. So Saturn will be retrograding at some point throughout this transit over the next year, meaning it will move all the way up to 7 degrees. In the fall, it's going to turn around, retrograde, and it's going to come back down to 0. So similar to a Mercury retrograde, a Venus retrograde, we're going to see the planet make an aspect. In your case, it's going to conjunct your natal Saturn or another natal placement, move forward, stop, retrograde, hit it again, go direct, move forward, hit it again. So there's this 3-part aspect of this unfolding that will happen with your Saturn's return. Don't think that you have the first one and you're like, whoo, I'm in the clear, because honestly, y'all, it'll come back and it'll get you right in the end. And even when you finish your Saturn return, you're still in that energy. I'm going to keep telling you guys this. I'm feeling like I'm just coming out of mine, but it's been pretty good overall. And I'm really optimistic about seeing Saturn come into a sextile with my natal Saturn and Neptune. I think a lot of it is me now wanting to help other people and giving you guys some insight in terms of how to navigate this. Now, Saturn, right? In traditional astrology, it was considered like the outer limits. It was like the medieval Pluto. Ruled outsiders, limitations, boundaries, borders, walls, all of these things that create limitations that can make us feel separate or isolated. Now, in the sign of Pisces, right, which is otherworldly, invisible, spiritual, this is the feminine, mutable body, right, sign of Pisces, traditionally ruled by Jupiter. Now, this is the more feminine energy of Jupiter, and it is about receptivity, psychic abilities, intuition, and it also has this connection to Neptune, which is kind of dreamy, sensual, poetic, magic, but also kind of sad. So there will be some sense out in the world of noticing more of these themes. And you guys can look at my other videos for that. I want to just speak specifically on how it's going to affect you. So for both of my Saturn return groups, those of you guys from the 90s, those of you guys from the mid 60s, this information is really important to better understand this energy. But if you're listening and you're like, it's not my Saturn return, or I already had it, or it's not until down the road, still, you want to see where Saturn is moving through your chart, so that way you have a better understanding of how this energy is going to manifest. Now, Saturn basically is like the strict teacher, right, or parent, or the mentor, like the drill sergeant, in a way that's going to expect form, dedication, that you're putting in the time, the effort, and that you're really focusing on building something solid, a solid structure, which makes absolutely zero sense in the sign of Pisces, because Pisces it's water, right? It just slips through your hands, or it's fog, it's a dream. It's not something that you can really grasp. So throughout this transit, finding ways to be able to build solid structures while we're in the midst of this confusing energy can be difficult. Basically, it wants to help you build your dream, and it does require us to be more so sober in terms of how we're looking at our dreams and making them a reality. And it will take time to build. So you want to give yourself that 2.5, 3 years to really focus on building and putting in the work to solidify, right? Solidify wherever Saturn is in your life. Pisces is a liquid, right? That connection to Neptune, and Saturn does deal with coagulating, like bringing something together and making it solid. So there's going to be a sense for the first year of kind of getting your sea legs about whatever is happening. And it may feel like there are some things that are out of your control, or there are some things that are happening for mental health reasons, for mystical or magical reasons. There may be this feeling of being isolated or being separate. And the beauty is if you learn to work with it, there can be some really amazing spiritual breakthroughs creative breakthroughs, the list goes on. I've seen so many clients right around the time they're 28, 29 years old go, you know what, I think that's it. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done with this career. I need to find something that is going to be more for me and something that really speaks to my soul. And I'm like, yes, you're right on time. I equally see lots of people who go either in or out of relationships. Sometimes they are getting into their first adult relationship. Other times they're making big decisions like going back to school, launching businesses, having children. It's this real coming of age transit. So if you're going through it for the first time, it's definitely a really important time to do the work. If you're going through it for the second time, I kind of feel inclined to tell you, you've already done it before. It's a little different now because you are going to have Saturn in the same sign as Neptune. So even though we're just starting this transit today, I'm several steps ahead looking into the future as we get closer to 2025 and 2026, knowing that what will happen towards the end of this transit is a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Pisces moving into Aries. And that's wild. We'll talk about it in the future. I don't want to get there yet. But the bottom line is that my takeaway from this is that we have to be more aware of our energy. We have to be more aware of our vibes, what we give off, what we're putting out there, what we're absorbing, because Pisces is a sponge. It's super empathic. It absorbs everything. 2, you also want to be mindful of your faith and your spirituality. So there is a sense of maybe going back to church for some people. There is a sense of maybe deciding that you want to be on this quest of finding your belief system or making more time to reflect and connect to your higher self. Whatever it is, this is going to require a little bit of faith. Let me go through my notes so I don't like spin off, because I feel like that might happen here soon. So when we're looking specifically at Saturn in Pisces, right? So, you know, as you guys are going to be navigating this transit, here are some themes that I think that you're going to be seeing as you move through this. Number 1, spirituality in the unseen world. Okay, so Pisces is often associated with spirituality, intuition, and connection to things that are unseen or like mythical realms. So individuals like you guys who have a strong Pisces energy, you may feel heightened sensitivity to spiritual or metaphysical experiences. Dreams, visions, intuitions, gut hunches, all of these things are going to be felt more strongly, and you want to tap into that as much as you can. Number 2, the arts are huge, right? This is the sign where Venus is exalted, right? So we look at this as an opportunity to use art as a form of not just self-expression, but maybe even like therapy or medicine. Pisces is associated with creativity, imagination, and the arts. And those of you guys with this placement have a strong draw to music, poetry, visual arts, and other forms of creative expression. No doubt the next few years are going to be breakthrough years for film. I also think for art and you know, screens and artificial reality and all of that stuff. But if you are somebody who is wanting to be filmmaker, artist, creator, this is the time to really use that Saturn energy to ground yourself and focus on form when it comes to your creative expression, and really making sure that you're putting in the time, right? And it may even be about finding a mentor or getting a degree or going through a certification. I can't think about Pisces without compassion and empathy. Pisces is known for a strong sense of compassion and empathy towards others. They can't help it. They're a water sign, so they feel sometimes what other people feel. Those of you guys who have this placement may have a natural inclination towards helping others and may be highly attuned to the emotions and needs of those around you. Now, this can be to a fault. There can be a sense of being so highly empathic and sensitive and emotional that you absorb other people's problems, you pick up on their energy, their habits, and you can very easily get overwhelmed and confused and not know what are your feelings versus another person's. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this and how to better ground your energy, but just know that psychic boundaries and maintaining your psychic boundaries are going to be so important throughout this transit. Now, the darker side, we do see with Pisces energy that there can be themes of escapism and addiction. Pisces is associated with a tendency towards escapism. Some of you with strong Pisces placements or 12th house placements may feel like you struggle to deal with the harsh realities of the world, and you're seeking refuge in substances, in fantasy, and other forms of distraction. So whether it's smoking weed, drinking, binge watching Netflix, porn addictions, it doesn't matter. These things are all going to come up while Saturn is in Pisces. I think strongly about this disassociation that we have and the tendency to just mindlessly scroll and not pay attention to people. We lose time just getting sucked into apps or getting sucked into the internet. So screen monitoring might be a real thing. I, for one, say that that's something that I'm planning on doing with my Saturn and Pisces transit, really making sure that I'm on my screens, my laptop, my apps, just basically to do the work that I need to do, and that's it. There's no coincidence that they're just starting to roll out limitations in screen time on TikTok. We're going to see more of this stuff, and I also think that we're going to see more reminders that may start popping up on certain apps and gadgets that are asking you if you want to continue using that application, right? Kind of like Netflix is like, are you still watching? When that comes up, that's gonna be that's gonna be Saturn for you guys, saying like it's time to turn off the TV. And then also boundaries and self-sacrifice. So because there is this issue with lack of boundaries with Saturn in a Neptune sign, and also just a real focus on self-sacrifice, those of you guys who have this placement have a tendency to put others' needs before your own and struggle to assert yourselves with your own needs and desires. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on the placement, but if you're having a difficult time discerning where your boundaries lie, you may need to work on developing healthier boundaries in relationships. And some of you guys might decide to do that by, blocking people. I'm not saying you should, but you might. You guys may also decide that it's important to start working with a therapist or with mental health counselors or addiction counselors, or maybe even just healers, to start talking about how to have better boundaries and awareness and find the root issues of where some of these tendencies come from. Now, Saturn and Pisces in general, it has pros and cons. Like I said, there can be challenges and strengths. I want to focus first on the strengths, and I think that the two things that are going to come up the most for you guys, where you're going to be focusing with Saturn in the sign, is learning more about compassion and really developing empathy for other people. It can make it possible for you to be highly attuned to other people's needs, so that way you are helping protect others, standing up for others, and educating other people how to hold space and to not just be tolerant, but to be encouraging of diversity, because I think that's a huge theme with Saturn and Pisces. If we look back at what's happened throughout history, especially in the 90s, there was a number of genocides. There was also other genocides throughout history that have taken place that have coincided with really strong Pisces transits, not just Saturn in Pisces, but a lot of these things can happen obviously all of the time, but you're just going to see it more while Saturn is in this sign. It's also going to encourage you guys to think more about your creativity and how to be creative beyond just like arts and crafts or taking photos or drawing pictures. And so I think that creativity and artistic pursuits are going to be huge. Like I said, finding structure is important, but some of you guys might start looking at art as therapy, and that's how you're working on processing emotions and moving through things. I also think it's an amazing time to develop your spirituality. So, it can lead to a strong sense of connection to the divine, to your higher self, to a new belief system. And many of you guys are going to be attracted to things like meditation, yoga, and prayer because of the connections to Neptune and Jupiter. Jupiter is known as the planet that deals with chanting and gurus and prayer. Pisces, that Neptune energy, is more about private spaces, sanctuaries, holistic centers, being able to go to retreat centers, and anything that's going to help you kind of connect to other realms. So I could definitely see a lot of people experimenting with plant medicine, experimenting also with other medications that may be more natural to help you ease anxiety or ease depression or heavy moods. Now, in general, like I said, during the time of your Saturn return, there's a number of things that happen. And I would recommend the following things to really focus on in terms of like a whole list when it comes to tackling your Saturn's return. Number one for me would be reflect on your past. And I say this because Saturn talks a lot about what we are keeping with us, what we are discarding, and what we are moving forward with, especially in a mutable sign. Pisces represents the 12th house, or the last sign of the zodiac. So it's a transitional energy. It's where we transition from the late part of winter into the beginning of spring. So Pisces is almost this wrapping up, this clearing out, this fading away, while we're making space and getting ready to have a rebirth in the sign of Aries. So it would be beneficial for you guys to take some time to reflect on your past and think about the lessons that you've learned so far. What have been major themes and challenges for you in your life? What patterns do you notice in your relationships, your career, and also your personal growth? Now, if you want to take this a step further, look specifically at where Saturn is in your chart. That house is going to tell you where you're really wrapping some stuff up and where you're focusing on growth. Number 2 would be set intentions. And this is really important because I think it's going to take you guys a little bit of time to kind of get the hang of this. But as you approach your Saturn return, it's important to set intentions for what you want to achieve during this time. What areas of your life do you want to focus on? What changes can you make? Write down your intentions and review them often. What I would say is meditate on them often. And don't meditate on them being like, this is going to go away and that's going to go away and this is going to go away. So much about Pisces energy is about receptivity, staying open to what actually drops in a meditation or what comes through in a dream. So rather than focusing on what's not working or what's making you depressed or what's sad or what you've lost, hold space and be open to receiving guidance in regards to what comes next, right? What comes next. And also learning to really focus on having trust and faith in the process of what's going on. Number 3 would be cultivate self-awareness. The Saturn return is a time for intense self-reflection. There's a reason why Saturn has this association with having your own time and space to be away from other people and reassess some of your goals and some of your boundaries moving forward. So it's important to cultivate self-awareness, practice mindfulness, meditation, or maybe even journaling to become more aware of your thoughts and your feelings and your behaviors. So important, considering the fact that what you're thinking about, what you're dreaming about, what is always on your mind, or even what you're staring at on a screen will have ripple effects. And not only will it affect you, but it's going to affect other people. Number 4 would be seek support. So a Saturn return can be a challenging time. It's important to have a support system. Reach out to trusted friends and family members and consider working with a therapist, a life coach, or maybe even an astrologer. Now, Pisces is the sign of the mystics, so I do think we're going to see more support coming from astrologers, tarot readers, psychics, mediums, the list goes on. There's going to be so many more people who are going to kind of step in and decide that they want to hold space and assist those of you guys who are going through this. For some of you guys on your second Saturn return, this might be the moment where you're embracing that you have these skills and that you're ready to help the collective. Embrace change. So this is a big one because the Saturn return is a time of transformation. You may experience significant changes in your life. Embrace these changes and see them as opportunities for growth and learning. Even if it means you have to lose something or say goodbye or end something, clear something up. For me, it was huge. You know, the Saturn return was a heavy one. It was a time where I was coming to terms with a really difficult relationship with my mother, who I'm estranged from. It was a time where I was going back home and visiting my grandmother right after my grandfather passed, and recognizing that she was getting older and that she was kind of on the decline and she wasn't going to be around much longer. So I made much more of a focus in spending time with her rather than pushing back and like rejecting the idea that she may be gone. It was also a huge period of change and transformation in my life. I'm really proud of the Saturn return glow up. I mean, for me, I kind of had to disappear for a while to be able to go through that. But it manifested as a rebirth period for me. I lost like 45 pounds. I was much happier when I came out the other side of it. I ended a really shitty relationship, was in the process of getting ready to move. And then I met my husband, and then moved to another state to be with him. We started working together, and a lot of this content and a lot of the consistency with the channel is as a result of his support and helping make this possible, because one of my goals was to come back to YouTube. So it was a really good time in my life once I got through the other side of it, and like the last probably like 4 or 5 months of the Saturn return was when I kind of realized like everything that happened for a reason. When you're in it though, it's kind of hard to see the forest through the trees. So meditate and embrace change is the one recommendation that I would make. And finally, practice self-care. So self-care is so important during this time. Make sure you're taking good care of your physical, emotional, and mental health, getting enough sleep, eating well, exercising, and engaging in things that are going to help bring you joy, because Saturn in Pisces is not joyful. It is lonely, It is also a very sobering, whether you're consciously deciding to do that or not. It is also a time where we may deal with heavier moods, depression, isolation, and there can definitely be kind of like this spiral effect that can happen where we feel like we have to kind of unwind and kind of lose it and fall off to be able to kind of come back to reality. So all these things are going to be so important for you guys to take into consideration as you're going through your Saturn's return. I want to roll through the 12 houses and just let you know how Saturn manifests specifically in each one of the 12 rising signs. I recommend listening for your rising sign, then you can listen to your sun sign and your moon sign. But when I reference the Saturn sign prediction, I'm using whole sign for Western astrology. This is going to tell you literally where it's moving in and just give you a little tidbit of what to focus on. And then the rest of my video is going to be about me talking to you guys about things that I'm doing as a part of my routine and my self-care for Saturn in Pisces. These are things that I have been doing pretty much since my Saturn's return, but I've just noticed the last 2 or 3 months there's been a real uptick in things that I'm using and things that I'm doing. And so I want to make some of those recommendations. Okay, so let's start first with Aries and Aries rising. So if you're an Aries or an Aries rising, and you're having Saturn go through Pisces, it's transiting your 12th house. So Saturn here can bring a focus on spirituality, your inner world, with a disciplined approach to meditation, self-reflection, and healing. The individual may also have a strong sense of responsibility towards those who are marginalized and suffering. Some of you guys may decide that you want to start a nonprofit. Some of you guys might decide that you want to do something where you can help the masses. You may go back to school. I really recommend a strong meditation practice for this placement in particular. I really encourage you guys to embrace alone time. And if you're going through some changes in regards to your career, there is a real need to have a private space to be like working and reflecting and like putting in the effort. Spiritual routine and spiritual practice is also really important here as well. If you have an a Taurus rising, you're going to be experiencing Saturn going through Pisces through your 11th house. So for you guys, this brings a sense of responsibility towards social justice and humanitarian causes with a disciplined approach to activism and social change. You may also have a strong sense of duty towards your friends and your community. What comes with this, though, may be endings of some friendships, beginnings of new ones. You may join groups or clubs or associations that you really resonate with. Some of you guys may also have to push yourselves to get out there and socialize a little bit more and focus on friendships. But this is also a really important time to focus on your goals. And considering you have a lot of support with Jupiter moving into your sign later this spring, I really feel like it's important for you guys to be connecting with people who are more in alignment with the person that you're becoming, okay? So that's really important. For Gemini and Gemini rising, you guys are gonna be having Saturn go through your natal 10th house. Here, Saturn can bring a strong sense of duty and responsibility towards your career and reputation, with focus on hard work and achievement. You may also have a strong sense of tradition and respect for authority. So you may find that there are bosses that you really resonate with. It might have something to do with one of your parents. There can be some real changes going on with your professional life and really kind of finding your dream position, especially with Neptune being in the sign. It is challenging, Gemini, because you have Saturn transiting exactly 10 signs from your sign. So this is a Saturn aspect. And I think that if you have been kind of going about life, not really knowing what you want to be when you grow up, this may be the time that you figure it out. But there is a sense of learning not to lose yourself in your work and your career, and also making sure that you're finding something that's really kind of feeding your soul, okay? For Cancer and Cancer rising, you're going to have Saturn going through your natal 9th house. This is going to bring focus on education, philosophy, spirituality. And you're going to focus on having a disciplined approach to learning and growth. Now, you may also have a strong sense of duty towards helping others through their spiritual or philosophical beliefs. Some of you guys may complete an educational program. You may graduate. You may go to a higher level of education. Some of you guys may become teachers or mentors. Travel and philosophy may become a huge part of your life. You may meet a really significant person who is going to be teaching you or guiding you. I think of the ninth house as the bigger picture of life, the philosophy, where we really kind of figure out what life is about. And you guys may be more inclined to want to travel places or study things that are very culturally different or diverse than your traditional background. It also helps that it's a sister sign. So, for those of you guys who are Cancer risings, especially within the first 10 degrees, you're going to be experiencing Saturn trine your ascendant. So you need that faith to kind of help better stabilize your emotions. For Leo rising, you're going to have Saturn transiting in Pisces in your 8th house. Saturn here can bring a focus on transformation and change with a sense of responsibility towards deep emotional and psychological work. You may have a sense of your own mortality. This is an interesting one. So you really, nobody gets a pass, right? Like death and taxes are the only things that are guaranteed in life. We always see some theme or omens of death when we have transits, especially outer planets in the 8th house. Now, it can manifest a number of different ways. Saturn going here, if you're older, you might start thinking about life insurance, setting up insurance policies, wills, estates, or dealing with these topics. If you're younger, there may be a sense of realizing, wow, I'm not going to live forever. Maybe you experience your first real loss. But death doesn't have to come in physical form. It could be the ending of a relationship, a financial situation, or even a job. But you guys are really going to be focusing, I think, on the emotions that come with that, and the way that you look at death or grief is going to shift in a very pivotal way. For Virgo rising, you have got Saturn transiting your natal 7th house, and Saturn here can bring a sense of responsibility or duty towards relationships and partnerships. You may be highly disciplined in really focusing on, what it takes to be a good partner. You may approach relationships in a much more serious or mature manner. Equally, relationships that aren't working will be on the chopping block. But this isn't limited to just romantic relationships. Yes, some of you guys might decide, this relationship isn't working. I've seen a lot of Pisces risings who are dealing with individuals who, Virgo risings who are dealing with individuals who are having partners who are having addiction issues or mental health issues, or they need space. And that's literally how it's manifesting in your 7th house. So it really depends on the aspects. I think that, it's not limited to just romance, though. It can be, some of you guys might break up with a therapist, or you might change readers or astrologers. There can also be a sense of just being more cautious when it comes to entering into certain business relationships as well. Really pay attention, though, because it is your opposite sign. So it is relational. Even if you aren't a Virgo rising, it's going to be about your relationship with that opposite house. For Libra and Libra rising, Saturn is going to be moving through Pisces in your natal 6th house. Saturn here can lead to a strong change and focus on your work and your sense of service, and really focusing on, finding a sense of duty and responsibility towards others. So you may be more disciplined in your work and your health habits or your routines. Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly feeling that, but I think that what's kind of wonky about being a Libra rising is everything is backwards, right? All of the houses are inverted by sign. So having Pisces in the 6th house, which is traditionally a Virgo energy, you're realizing that you're responsible not just for your physical routines, but also for your mental health, for your daily routines, making sure that you're taking time to incorporate spirituality or rest, relaxation, recuperation, and also spiritual cleanliness as you move through this transit. Yes, some of you guys might change offices, you might change your working hours, you might say, I'm going to quit drinking, I'm going to quit eating, I'm going to get back to the gym. But this is going to take time, and you really want to watch out for those like sneaky little bad habits that kind of come out of the blue that you may not have even been aware of. For Scorpio risings, Saturn is going to be moving through your natal 5th house. And this is going to lead to a sense of responsibility towards creative pursuits and self-expression, or children and romance. Here you have a more disciplined approach towards creative or artistic endeavors. So it doesn't matter what you want to create. If you want to get more serious about a hobby and turn it into a business, if you are wanting to get serious about finding someone or something you can love, this is the time to do it. The 5th house does represent lovers, but also your first child. So for some of you guys, it may be the experience of dealing with your firstborn or thinking about whether or not you're ready to have a child. Now, the support here, Scorpio, is that it's in a sister sign. So it is going to be making trines to your ascendant, especially if it's within the first 10 degrees, which is helping encourage that Scorpio ascendant to undergo a process of change and transformation. If you don't want kids, totally fine, but I think you're gonna get more serious about creativity and what you're creating, as well as what the heart wants. For Sagittarius, Sag rising, you have got Saturn going into Pisces. It's gonna be moving through your natal 4th house. Here, Saturn can have a tendency to focus more on family and home life, but it also brings feelings of restriction and limitation within your home environment. Here you might have a strong sense of tradition and respect for your family heritage, or you might be feeling like you have to find a home. Literally, Saturn in the 4th can materialize as home issues, particularly in Pisces, plumbing issues, family members with mental health or addiction issues, uncovering your heritage and where you come from and trying to find lost relatives or do research in terms of your background, right? That might happen. This is a hard place to have a Saturn transit, and it does take time. And from somebody who has natal Saturn in the 4th, my recommendation would be you have to focus on becoming your own parent. Even if you have a good relationship with your parents, now you're 30 years old, you may have to learn how to take better care of yourself emotionally, pay attention to those emotions, tend to them, and also like acknowledge when you're feeling down. Saturn's moving through the lowest part of your chart, so it is meant to feel like this heaviness. And yes, some of your, professional goals are going to feel out of reach, but you want to rip up all the boards in your house, figuratively, not literally, although you might, and redo the foundation, because everything in terms of getting to your 10th house is going to be built on this foundation. What I learned with my Saturn return in the 4th house is that I couldn't really show up for work or for clients or for the amount of work that I was doing because I failed to actually go and do the foundational work. So I kind of was weighing the options. It was like, I either keep going the direction I'm going and this is going to falter, and I also realized that I was never really going to cultivate that home life, private life that I wanted, or I take a step back, do as much as I can and really focus on the inner work. I'm glad that I did that because it ended up paying off. But whether you're wanting to buy a home or you're trying to hash things out with your relatives, it's going to take some time. For Capricorn rising, you have got Saturn going through Pisces. It's going to be going through your natal 3rd house. Here, Saturn can lead to a strong work ethic and focus on education and communication. You may be highly disciplined in your study habits and your communication style. Some of you guys are going to focus on learning a new language. Some of you guys are going to have a difficult time communicating with relatives, specifically siblings. You might have problems with neighbors. You may have a car that breaks down. You may have to learn new applications, or you might have to, dig deeper into being able to figure out how to express yourself when you can't find the words, right? Pisces is what's kind of hidden and missing. Journaling, guys, such a great opportunity to get into journaling, to get into creative writing, to get into learning tarot. That might be another thing that can be great because the 3rd house represents what you do with your hands. Going for walks, going for bike rides, right? Listening to podcasts, anything that's going to be more so spiritual or self-help inclined can be really helpful. This is important if you're a Capricorn because you need to know where Saturn is moving. Saturn rules your chart. And also Pisces naturally sextiles your ascendant, so you're going to have some support throughout this transit. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you have got Saturn going into Pisces into your natal 2nd house. And here this can bring a focus on financial stability and a sense of self-worth tied to material possessions. There can be a tendency to be more frugal or conservative because Saturn is going to make you feel like you need to tighten the belt. So having a budget, sticking to a budget is so important, and not associating self-worth with a number in a bank account. So important. Saturn in Pisces wants to teach us just in general to be able to do more with less, to have faith that we're going to have everything that we need. And this is so especially true for you, Aquarius. I know you're going through some changes, but I think that whether you're cutting back on what you're eating, cutting back on what you're spending, creating more time to really focus on your relationship with material items and asking yourself if you're holding on to them for superficial reasons, or if it's time to just give stuff away and practice a much more kind of minimalistic lifestyle. Yes, there can be financial challenges, but if you navigate this appropriately, you'll be aware of where you can actually have more by spending less. Self-esteem is so important. You got to focus on that self-esteem. And I would say go through all of your lists of subscriptions, because Pisces is what we don't see. Take a look at what you're spending. Get a budgeting app, plug it in, go and find all the subscriptions you're paying for that you're not using, and start trimming the fat now, because that's going to make it a whole lot easier. And then finally, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. So you're having Saturn go through your natal first house. Here, Saturn can make you feel a sense of responsibility and duty towards yourself. This is going to lead to a strong focus of self-discipline and self-improvement. Once in a 29-year transit, Saturn sits on your ascendant. It is the dawn of a new you, right? You're focusing on new goals, and you need to make sure you have boundaries in order to facilitate that growth and facilitate that change. So there is a sense of needing to kind of check your aura before you leave the house, right? That's important. You may have to do the salt baths. You may feel the effects of aging. You have to take care of your body. Depression and emotions can literally get trapped in your bones. Saturn rules the bones, the teeth, the skin, the nails. You're going to see the gray hairs. It's going to happen. You're going to see the wrinkles. It's going to happen. And it's all about how you look at that and how you embrace that and see that as an opportunity to kind of go like, okay, I think I can do this. Like, there's some wisdom that comes with age, and also this knowing, this internal knowing. And you're going to tap into that like sagely ability that you have naturally. And it's also going to help taper some of that Neptune energy, where maybe you've been kind of all over the place and kind of like out to lunch, space cadet, not totally grounded in reality all the time. It's going to also help you really focus on routines and being on time and managing time a little bit better, maybe even your sleep. Do take care of your physical health, because we can definitely have some health-related issues that can come up with that transit. That's just the brief Saturn through the 12 houses. Obviously, when you take into consideration aspects and other things that are going on, it's going to paint a much fuller, more personal picture, and that's really the benefit of being able to get a personal reading. Something else I want to remind everybody is that we are also going to see that Jupiter is moving into Taurus. Okay, so Jupiter is going to go into Taurus in May. We are going to start to see some sextiles intermittently from Saturn and Jupiter, which is really wonderful, because we've got Jupiter. Jupiter is a Piscean energy. So when we see that really nice sextile, it's basically saying that Jupiter is basically shining a light and saying, hey, these are all the positive physical changes that can happen as a result of committing, praying, reflecting, resting, sleeping, taking better care of our spiritual and also our mental and emotional bodies. So that's my food for thought. Here are some tools, okay? And I'm just gonna put this out there very simply because I get a ton of emails, I get a lot of comments, I get people who send me direct messages on Instagram. I can't always get back to everybody. And a lot of people have been asking me, well, how do you prepare? What are you doing? What, this, that, and the other. And now that I have Saturn going into my 6th, I feel like I'm capable of being able to be like, here is how you fix things. Here is what you use. Here is how you make it easier on your body. This is the healthier, the cleaner way. I am by no means a doctor, nor am I a healthcare, practitioner. But I have a background in working with herbalism and been working in herbalism for a number of years for metaphysical reasons and also for health-related reasons. Some of these things are things I've been doing for years. Some of these things I just started kind of picking up naturally over the last few months. And then the more that I dig into creating this list and developing a video, I was like, I'm doing so many of these things. So I'm going to give you guys a list of stuff that I would recommend. But keep in mind that spirituality does not mean you have to spend a ton of money. You should be able to do any of these things in the middle of nowhere during a hurricane and just be able to sit and zen out. Okay, you guys don't have to buy stuff in order to be spiritual. You can do a lot of this stuff with the bare minimum. If you're meditating, if you're consciously aware of your thoughts, if you're occasionally taking a salt bath, you're already doing a lot more than a lot of other people who are on YouTube trying to figure out how to navigate this period. You're golden. If you happen to want to utilize any of these things that I recommend, try it. It may work for you. It may also depend. Some of these recommendations or remedies that I'm making are going to be better suited for Saturn in certain houses. Okay, so I've got Saturn that's going into my 6th house, but I have that natal Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And I thankfully have had some really amazing astrology teachers and people who were really helpful and making me understand what I needed to do to have better health. spiritually, mentally, physically, in order to really reap the benefits of my natal Saturn placement. All right, so number one, yoga and meditation. Okay, that is the number one. If you do anything, if there's any takeaway from this, it's make sure you consciously take that 10-15 minutes a day. You don't have to go and spend hours in meditation, right? Even if you work at a desk job and you just need to set a reminder that 2 or 3 times a day, you stop, you breathe, practice the box breath. Breathe in for 3 seconds, 3 minutes. Breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, and release. Breath grounds us, right? It helps us stay connected and tethered to the body. If you're doing that and you're consciously aware of your breathing, even if you don't have time to meditate, you're grounding your energy. But I'm pretty sure everybody has 10 minutes or 15 minutes they can spare, whether you want to get up in the morning before, the kids are up, or before work is crazy, or maybe you're just deciding that you're not going to sleep in as much. I don't know. Maybe you do it at night. But having conscious time to meditate and alone time to reflect and stay connected is so important, because if enough people do this during the Saturn and Pisces transit, or just even in general, we're going to create better a better energetic atmosphere. Everybody's going to be a little bit more tuned in, and they're going to be a little less panicky, I guess, right? Is that a word? I just made it a word. Okay, whatever. Yoga is great too, because Saturn has connections to yoga, whether you want to practice specific hand mudras or you want to be practicing yoga regularly, because it encourages you to hold that form, right? Because when Saturn transits come in, we want to tense up a little bit. And if we're breathing into those movements, we're connecting to the body and also working with like mantra work, it can be really helpful in like helping us stay calm and flexible in some difficult situations. It allows us to reflect and also allow those energies to work with our body better, because when Saturn is in your home sign, right, it wants to teach you something. So if you're consciously taking that time to do it, you're going to feel that you're navigating some of this stuff a little bit better. So yoga, meditation, and alone time. Art. I don't care if you want to get a coloring book, or if you want to start taking photos with a Polaroid camera, if you want to take a painting class, if you want to take a dance class. We got to get that energy flowing. That's what we want to do. We want to be creative. And even if you happen to have Saturn in a house that's not so creative, like for example, the 6th house, I'm having Saturn go through my 6th house. Some of the most ridiculous stuff, I'll tell you in a second, but some of the most ridiculous things are happening in my life right now. I've been going to Pilates now 3 times a week religiously. It's about to be 4, pretty much for the last 3 months consistently. Get up early in the morning, I go to Pilates, I need that routine, and I come back and I feel so much better doing it. But now I'm taking it a step further, and I'm looking into, like, I was originally looking for like water aerobics, like an old lady, right, with like one of those like rubber caps and everything. I just recently moved to a new place in Texas. I don't know anybody. And I saw that the local community centers are offering like water classes. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So first of all, they have water combat classes, which I think is awesome, because my Aries moon is like, wants to just beat something up. And I have a lot of Scorpio, and I have Pluto and Mars. So I was like, that's great. Like water combat and creating that resistance in water. Hi, Saturn and Pisces in my 6th house. And so I'm going to start trying to find a way to incorporate more water fitness. But also I've created this master list of all these places that I want to go to in Texas to start seeing all of like the ponds and the rivers and all the fresh water, to start really finding a place that I can like either go hiking or just spend time and just relax, right? So what I was getting at is, find ways, depending on where Saturn is in your chart, to be creative. It doesn't mean that you have to have fun. It's not about partying, because Saturn is a very sobering energy. But if you happen to have it in a house that is not a fun house, find ways to bring that creativity into that house. Faith is important, okay? So I don't care if you're praying to Jesus or Buddha or the flying spaghetti monster. Personally, I come from a faith background. I don't practice it anymore, but I do have faith. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe that there is some divine plan. I do have conversations with my higher self regularly, usually when I'm driving or, whatever, when I'm spaced out. this is a time to really focus on faith, and whether that is setting time aside to have conversations mentally or literally with your higher self or with something that you believe in, and really maintain that faith practice. Because I think Saturn in Pisces is saying we have to have faith even if we don't see it. And some of us will not immediately see the results. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. If you start focusing on stuff now, round about the end of the transit in 2 years' time, we're going to start to see stuff manifest as, oh, okay, great. We've got the tools that we need to navigate, which will be so important when Saturn conjuncts Neptune, because collectively everybody's got to do it. So it's easier to kind of do it and get ahead of the curve. So for those of you guys who haven't had your Saturn return yet, who are going to have it in a year or two, for those of you guys who are going to have Saturn return down the road, those of you guys who just want to navigate Saturn and Pisces, get the show on the road now, because the first year is going to be about us learning kind of the ropes of it, and we're really going to need a lot of these techniques about 2 years from now. Look to Jupiter in Taurus as a life preserver. So you guys literally need to look 2 houses over. In May, Jupiter is going to go into Taurus. We're going to see intermittently all year sextiles between Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter expands in Taurus physically. So yeah, you may spend a little money. You may have to eat something different. You may have to educate yourself. You may have to focus on physical change, but you'll see that physical change as a result of what you're sitting and meditating and thinking about or dreaming about or manifesting. Take care of your body and your spirit. This is so important. And so this is really where I'm going to give you guys all of these recommendations. If you guys look below, I will post the link to my Amazon. Generally, I only have the Amazon out just so you guys can see the books that I'm using, because I do reference a number of books on my my YouTube channel. And if you guys have questions about what decks that I've used, I'm not really trying to make money. I don't really care. It's just this is easier for me because I know a million people are going to comment below and go, what was that product? What did she say? What was this? So I'm going to make it easy. Just click the link. You can go to my Amazon storefront, and literally everything that's on there are things that I've bought that I'm using. But specifically, when I say take care of your mind, body, and spirit, Pisces is a sign that's associated with Neptune, okay? So me in particular, I'm focusing so much right now on what is alkaline, eating more of an alkaline diet, trying to eat more whole foods. Really, since my Saturn return, it's been this moving away from food that is processed, moving away from stuff that's got, that's in jars and bottles and anything that's like wrapped. Like, I don't want that stuff. When I go to the grocery store, I have like a whole list of what I'm going to be eating throughout the week, and I go and buy those whole foods, and I come home and I make it from scratch. I'm doing that even more now. Fell off a little bit, but I'm doing it a little bit more now. And like that has made a huge shift, I think, for me, just energetically and emotionally. But clean liquids, right? So alkaline water, if you guys want to look into reverse osmosis systems, obviously some of these systems can be expensive, but just simply making sure that you're getting hydrated, staying hydrated. Okay, so I like to take electrolytes. That's something I do every day, but also clean water, making sure it's filtered, and also knowing what's in your water. So important in light of some of the things that are happening in Ohio and other places. There's so many train accidents and explosions and just like weird, sketchy stuff that's going on in the world. So I just moved into a new development where I'm now living in San Antonio. So we have a new house, and we're staying here for the next year until we figure out where we're going to land. And I wasn't really worried about having clean water until some of this stuff happened recently, and I was like, I'm going to test the water. So I did my research on what was going to be a reliable and affordable water test, and I got this. Verify, and it's going to be a part of my list, don't worry. 16 parameter water test strips. There's 100 strips in here. Okay, it also comes with 2 bacteria strips, so this was actually one of the better ones that I could find. And on the back, it gives you all of the different levels of what should be in the water. So best believe I tested the water. It is great. However, the alkaline is off the charts. And that's why I was like, okay, I felt like there was something off there. So trying to have more of an alkaline diet, making sure that I'm having filtered water, but I got to do stuff that's going to offset that if I'm not drinking bottled water all the time, which has its own issues because it's in plastic. So I'm trying to figure out a way to be able to probably bring like Kangen water in or something, and also shifting I always have a water bottle somewhere, but I'm looking into keeping it in a copper water bottle for various reasons. Anyway, I recommend testing your water. Really simple thing you can do. Not everybody is going to be inclined to do it, but it might be smart throughout the Saturn in Pisces transit. So you know what's in your water, where you can rebalance things, and whether or not you need to make sure that you're getting clean water from another water source. On the topic of liquids, I also have been really making this conscious shift to being like, I don't want to buy anything with crap in it. Okay. I don't want a bunch of Lysols and sprays and to the point where like I'm about ready to just totally even get rid of all of my all natural laundry detergent and start making my own super sixth house. Right. So natural cleaners, the way I clean everything for the most part is I like to take hot water, some Dr. Bronner's soap. I take some fresh lemon, a pinch of sea salt, some vinegar, and some baking soda. That is my cleaner. I clean floors with it. I clean counters with it. I can clean fruit and vegetables with it. I can clean, everything, and clean everything with it. And there's nothing in it that is going to be harmful, and you don't have all of these like chemicals, because that's what we're going to be hearing a lot more about over the next couple of years. Chemicals in our clothes, in our food, in our water, just in everything. So I'm looking to be using natural cleaners. Obviously, if you guys have recommendations for products, I'm always happy to be hearing about that, because I know there are lots of products that are going to be environmentally friendly, but I don't even want to be like buying a bunch of plastic stuff. That's kind of where I'm at. It's weird. And I'm doing that because of what I'm learning about the effects of having stuff that's wrapped in plastic that we're eating or that we're putting on our body, and how it's like actually disrupting our hormones and other things. That's why I'm doing it personally, but obviously I'm on a bit of a bender. Pisces rules the feet. So foot reflexology is really important. Some of you guys, especially if you've got like Saturn in the 1st, maybe the 6th or the 12th, foot reflexology can be wonderful. You can read all kinds of stuff that's going on with the body and be able to work stuff out and kind of clear stuff out through that, even if it's not relating specifically to the feet. Pisces also has connections to the lymphatic system, okay? So something I started doing naturally, and I didn't realize that was the connection. I started doing it about 3 months ago. This is another one of the products that I put on the Amazon list, is I got a dry brush, and I've been dry brushing. I will dry brush my entire body. I sweep everything towards the lymph nodes, right, to clear it. And I just make sure before I take a shower every single day, I do a full dry brush sweeping. Everything on my legs, trying to really stimulate circulation, making sure that everything is like really clear. I am super all over that with like natural products and things that are going to be like anti-aging, but also clearing, because the immune system, right, if we're clearing and getting stuff out of and doing our lymphatic drainage, we're less likely to have buildup, we're less likely to get sick. Massage can be a wonderful option as well. So getting massage for the purpose of kind of clearing the body. Something else that I started using, I'm probably going to botch this and mispronounce it, but I started using a gua sha. Is that how you pronounce it? Somebody's going to tell me I'm saying it right or wrong. But particularly I wanted to use the stainless steel, because I wanted something that was going to be for inflammation. Believe it or not, apparently the appropriate way to use these, and these are super cheap. They're like $10 on Amazon. Sterilize them. You can rub them down with alcohol or soap and water. I run it under hot water. I put just some vitamin C serum on my face. And then there's so many great videos on YouTube of just like women that are just sitting there, and they've got like, music playing, and it's like super, I don't know, relaxing. And I just, I start at my neck, and I bring it up, and I drain it, and I shake it at the lymph nodes for draining. Take it through, because I'm trying to really focus on reversing aging, trying to not crack. And then pull it up through my cheekbones, pull it up over my brows, push it up through my forehead. And I'm doing this every single day because, trying to just focus on depuffing the face and anything that's going to be clearing all of the crap out of my system. And then something else that I would recommend on the topic of liquids, and this is more so, I think, like for cleaning and stuff, baths, right? Soaking. Super simple. I put one on there that's like a natural, I think it's like a sea salt or an Epsom salt. I use a combination of sea salt and Epsom salt. So I just get a big bag of Epsom salt, or I always have some in my apothecary. I have like 4 or 5 different types of salts. And Epsom salt, sea salt, some lemon, some aromatherapy drops. You know, you can use like an essential oil drop or 2. And also Florida water. So if you guys get lucky, you can find this sometimes in spray version. It's harder to find, but I like to use this to like wipe down all my altar space. If I want to, you know, cleanse the house during a new moon, clean all the floors, sweep, you know, vacuum, do the whole thing, put some of this out, wipe all the counters down. It's just really great for removing all the spiritual ickies. But also for like anointing and stuff, if you're wanting to do that before doing any ritual work, really great. I love this stuff. And now I'm going to get more into talking to you guys about like supplements and other things that I'm doing. This is one of the bath soaks that I use, the Village Naturals Therapy Chronic Pain and Fatigue Body Soak. I like this stuff. It smells good. Arnica and Epsom salt, so it's really great. I mean, just like going and working out regularly now, I'm just like aching all the time. So between this and Lush bath bombs, that's like my favorite stuff in the world. Something else I've switched to also is I'm not buying like bottled shampoos or conditioners or any of that stuff. I've been using shampoo bars and conditioners. I'm going through different brands, so I can't make any real recommendations yet, but I started doing that because I was just like, I don't want stuff with chemicals in it. I want to get stuff that's natural, and I don't want plastic. So I will come back and give you guys some insight in terms of some of that stuff. But let's talk more about health and healing. Let's talk a little bit more about our immune system. Okay, so here's some stuff that I've been using for years. I have made it and I have bought it. And honestly, I could go either way. I love making fire cider. It takes me all day to do it, and I have huge mason jars. And honestly, I don't think anything as good as my homemade fire cider. I have not found anything in a bottle that is as good, but you know, it is what it is. If you guys know what that is, basically a bunch of hot herbs and roots. I like to use horseradish and garlic and onions and peppers and wasabi and all kinds of stuff. And you blend it all up and you soak it in vinegar and you put it in a dark bottle. And you can take that during flu season, which seems to be year round these days, to prevent colds. But also when I start getting sick, I immediately start taking shots of that stuff. I'll put it with some hot lemon in tea. I'll drink it in the morning. It's a wellness tonic. This is the one that I've been buying because I haven't had time to brew recently, but I'm going to brew some. I like getting the honey free because I primarily eat a low carb diet. I don't eat any bread or like rice or anything like that. I'm pretty strict with this. I'm like borderline paleo right now. But this is great because it's got everything in it. And I believe it's small batch, but basically you can mix it with juice or tea. You can add it to dressings, marinades, you know, salad, whatever you want. But I just take a shot of this during the flu season, and very rarely do I get sick. Very rarely. Although I've had COVID now a couple times, so I don't think I'm going to be getting sick anymore, but we'll see. All right, so there's this. You guys can make this too. Tons of recipes on the internet. Something else to support the immune system that I have been using for years, I swear by it. I start getting a sore throat, I start getting sick. I like to use my colloidal silver. So bioactive silver hydrosol, basically it's basically what this is. Daily immune support. Okay, you can overdo this stuff. With colloidal silver, you can turn blue. So you need to follow the directions. Make sure you don't take too much. I put a couple drops under the tongue, and I will take it when I'm feeling sick or under the weather. And sometimes I'll just take it when I know that I'm going to be at an airport traveling or around a lot of people. But this is so wonderful for like literally, if you start getting sick, it almost acts like an antiviral, at least in my opinion. Great stuff. Yet another product that I personally take because I'm trying to support my thyroid and I want to make sure that I am covered in that sense. You can overdo this, so I'm going to tell you guys you have to check with an herbalist or talk to somebody before you take any of this because you can't take too much. But I have been taking Mary Ruth's iodine drops. I just take like a drop or two. That's it in a glass of water. It's great for my energy levels. It's really helpful. And I also feel like, at least in light of some of the scary things going on in the world right now, I feel pretty covered if there was like a nuclear blast, because I always have a ton of this on hand. I don't have it out right now, but it's definitely something I have used in the past, especially when I start to get a sore throat, or if I start to notice that I've got a scrape or I've got a lump or a bump. Iodine, the dark iodine that you can just put in a cotton swab and, you know, wrap around something, just wipe it all. I will wipe it all over my neck. I've put it on bumps and bruises, and it is a miracle product. Chef's kiss for that stuff as well. And then this is something new that I just recently started doing. I just recently started doing castor oil packs. So some of you guys may know what that is. Essentially, I take castor oil, okay, and I put it on a 100% piece of cotton, and you put it right over your liver, right underneath your ribs on your right-hand side, and then you can just, I mean, I don't recommend, apparently you're not supposed to do it with cellophane. You're supposed to just put a pack over it, and then you put like a hot water bottle, or you can put a heating pad. It is wonderful for menstrual cramps. It is wonderful for detoxing and clearing. It will absorb. The heat helps it absorb into the body. I'm noticing I'm having better moods. I'm having better sleep. And also I can definitely feel like it's having a positive effect on me. I don't know. You can use it also on other areas. So if you're having cramps, you might wear it a little bit lower on your groin. If you have issues with knees, you can wrap your knees and you can do it. But I really recommend looking into castor oil packs, because that seems to be like the holy grail for detoxing and healing. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Oil pulling, that's something else that I've been doing with coconut oil. Wonderful. I love doing oil pulling and tongue scraping. I'm going to spare you guys from showing you my tongue scraper. It's just a metal piece, but I got into the habit during COVID of doing that, just to kind of make sure I'm clearing all of that from my system. Who would have thought? That's like such an amazing little tool. I made my husband get one and use it now, and I kind of think he likes it. I don't know. I like to cook with Celtic sea salt, because it is a mineral salt. So because Saturn in Pisces is going to deal with things relating to the sea, I've really been focusing on supplements and things that are connected to that. I don't have any right now because I'm in between and I'm waiting for my shipment, but I'm taking sea moss. I was taking it in capsule form. Now I'm going to try taking it in a gel form, because I am focusing on trying to do one of my meals a day as a shake. So I have just like a plant-based shake that I'm doing that's got very low or minimal minerals in it, because that can be a problem. There can be like lots of iron and other things in some lower quality shakes, so make sure you guys are checking your labels. But putting sea moss into that. Great for the gut, great for digestion, has so many vitamins and minerals in it. You guys can buy sea moss dry. Basically, I recommend wild forage if you guys can find it. There's a whole way of processing it. You basically have to soak it, then you blend it, and then you let it set up in the fridge, and it like kind of coagulates and it turns into like a gel. It does taste like the sea, so you may benefit by throwing it into a shake or a smoothie, unless you like the taste of it. It's also really great as a face mask, but I don't have any to show you guys like that right now. Kind of on the same level as like the iodine. And something else that I've been taking also is my spirulina. So this has been really great for energy levels. It's just, yeah, between this and I have it in powder form also. It's really easy to throw into smoothies and things like that. Really great for detoxing and also getting rid of heavy metals. That's like a huge, huge thing for me right now. Started taking this as a alkalizer and detoxifier. This is Garden of Life Raw Organic. I take a spoonful of this every day in my water. It's not pleasant, but it is what it is. It's got like a lemon ginger taste to it. But this is what I'm doing personally just to stay more alkaline, so I'm less prone to getting sick and having issues with my immune system. And also just getting an insane amount of vitamins and minerals. I mean, I'm already super crazy. I like taking Dr. Berg's products. I take a lot of those vitamins, and I probably take about 10 other things. NAC being one of the big things that I'm taking right now, resveratrol. Started taking brewer's yeast, and yeah, I'm just really focusing on that because I'm kind of in this transitionary period where I'm really focusing on just being healthy and leaning out, so then I can start trying to do more working out and like lifting weights and stuff maybe in the future. I don't know, we'll see. Make sure this is everything. Something that I picked up recently, and this is just something I'm doing, but obviously you don't have to do this. I picked up a new meditation stool, which I think is important because I feel like I'm not as engaged when I'm just sitting cross-legged on the floor. That's a personal thing. I've done some research, found a couple. I like the furry Palmarosa stool. I also have seen like these, the pre-dawn, the rocking stools. I don't know if anybody has any recommendations, but I just got one. That's going to be here soon, so I can really focus on using that regularly as a part of my meditation routine. You can do something as simple as using like a pillow on the ground also. Let's see, am I missing anything? I love real mushrooms, organic defenders. So there's the 5 defenders powder, which also I usually throw into a shake. It has all of these different types of mushrooms that are ground up and dried, which I feel like has made a huge difference in me getting sick and also just really amping up my immune system. And yeah, that's also on my list. So if you're into mushrooms, there you go. In terms of crystals, if you're more of like a crystal and like a rock hound type of person, I have definitely gotten a couple of these little mini salt lamps that I just plug into the wall. I have one in my office and I have one in my guest room. I've got a big gray one that I have in my bedroom. Honestly, I've always kind of had a salt lamp around, so maybe it's just me, but I feel better because it clears the air, and I also feel like it just creates a better atmosphere. But because Pisces is associated with the sea, having some salt lamps around can't hurt. They're super cheap. You can also get them really cheap at like local stores. Like they have them for like 15 bucks at Walmart. You can find them at Target. And if you don't want to do something like that, another option would be selenite. Okay, so selenite made out of salt. I have a ton of selenite. I have a bunch of these towers around the house. I've got a big selenite slab somewhere right here. So that's right there. That's my selenite wand. And then that is a peach selenite slab that I have. But I love the salt. Obviously, it is water sensitive. So if you live in a more humid area, be mindful of that. Not something you want to keep outside. And it just neutralizes bad energy. I mean, it just literally clears the space. So I like to hang like my crystals and stuff on them, like that I have, that I wear, and leave them on my selenite to clear them. I use selenite on my tarot decks, and I definitely can tell the difference that they're a little bit clearer when I go back to pick them up. Crystals specifically that I associate with Pisces would be, other than that, would be labradorite, also known as the magician's stone, right? Look at how pretty that is. I have a ton of pieces like this. Thankfully, when I was living in California, I used to go back and forth to Arizona a lot, and I would kind of go and see all like the rocks and the minerals that were closer to quartzite. And this is a piece that I picked up. I got a pair of bookends. But this is a manifestation stone, right? As above, so below. So it can be really helpful working with meditation or dream work, making it possible for us to better manifest or visualize our dreams and make them a reality. So I love this for that. Another crystal that I would recommend considering working with, and I feel like this is a staple, like everybody has a piece of amethyst somewhere. This one is super magical. This one belonged to my grandmother. She always had this in her house on display, and like this beautiful, like entryway that had like ceiling lights, like natural lighting. We lived in Arizona. So she had all these beautiful rocks and crystals that were on display. And like from the time that I was 4 years old, I was like, that's gonna be mine. And now I have it. So this is now on display in my office, but I have a couple chunks somewhere around here that I use. But this is great, especially for sobriety. And Saturn and Pisces can be big for sobriety. So if you're really focusing on trying to cut bad habits, quitting smoking, drinking, drugging, all of these things, this is wonderful for that. But it's also just a purifier, and it helps protect our psychic energy. So I like that as well. And then these are a couple pieces that I would recommend. For the blues, if you're feeling down, if you're having some heartbreak stuff, if you're not feeling the love, obviously rose quartz is always a great option to use, whether you want to wear it as a crystal or you want to have it nearby, have a piece. And I also like Nirvana quartz. So I have a smaller piece of this, but Nirvana quartz is really great also to really kind of focus on happiness and joy and reflect on like the silver lining of things. The glass is half full, trying to be more positive and optimistic and raising our vibes. I love me some Larimar because of the connections, obviously, to Atlantis, but also for helping kind of channel past lives, our intuition, our visions, our dreams. And so I love, love, love Larimar. It can be pricey, especially if you're getting it in jewelry form, but nevertheless, this is a great option to be working with during these transits. And then this is a recent new development for me. I started doing this more over the last few months. I just felt like I've been very, very energetically sensitive. I went to go and reach for my neck because I was wearing it and I took it off. So let me grab it. And call me crazy, okay? And I probably am crazy, but I've been really into EMF protection and wanting to have more protection around me. I'm always on my computer working. I'm always near Zoom or a cell phone. I happen to live in a place where there's a bunch of 5G towers that are right around this new place that I'm living. And I feel very sensitive to this stuff. So I picked up, and this I got on Etsy, and I got it because it was tested. So to kind of block, there's like a metal coil in there, and then it's got, yeah, all of these crystals and things that are in there that are supposed to clear it specifically. What does it say? It's a organite. Is that how you pronounce it? EMF protected necklace. And I also decided to grid my office. So I gridded my office and I put also some of these organite towers all over my house. And I found these on Etsy. So I got like a pack of 5 of them. So there's like one next to my bed. There's one in each room of the house. And then I got a gridding set. So I actually gridded this room. So each one of the corners has a puck. And then I have the pyramid that I keep in the middle that's meant to kind of neutralize things. And maybe it's a placebo effect, but I can definitely tell the difference. I'm sleeping better. I'm experiencing less migraines. I'm experiencing less stress. And so I think that that is definitely helping. I have noticed a shift in that since I picked those up. And I've just been better about kind of keeping my space clean. You know, it sounds silly, but vacuuming, sweeping the floors more often, throwing that salt out the front and the back door, you know, making sure that the house is gridded. I've got little tiny pieces. I got like a whole bunch of those little pieces of selenite and just gridded the house and all the doorways. Sounds silly, but remember, Saturn in Pisces is going to be about having limits for the spiritual world. And for some of you guys, it's working with crystals. For other people, it's going to be working with herbs. For other people, it's awareness. Maybe it's using sound. Definitely, I would recommend for those of you guys who are serious into your ritual work and stuff, looking into learning the lesser banishing ritual, you know, and being able to know how to invoke the pentagram the right way to be able to kind of blow out the space and protect your space, because it can be a big, big, big game changer. Okay, so I've been talking at you guys for a while. I will let you go. I will say thank you for listening to this. Hopefully this is helpful. Good luck to those of you guys who are starting your Saturn return. Be optimistic. Be willing to make some of the changes that you need to make. I hope you enjoy this video. Please give me a thumbs up. Give me a comment or two. Let me know, where is Saturn transiting in your chart? Is it your first Saturn return? Or are you just watching because you want to know what to do with this Saturn return? Do you want more videos like this? I always appreciate feedback. It's great hearing from all of you guys. I do read your comments. I don't always get the chance to respond, but I will be back. We're going to be talking more about Saturn and Pisces, if not this week, next week. But check out some more of these videos. You'll see them somewhere around here that's on a similar topic. Otherwise, I will see you guys in just a couple days. I will be back on Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your week and take care.